You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
You may remember on Friday, Mark Ronner gave his Ronner report for Final Destination Bloodlines. The movie, I would say, overperformed at the box office, shattering expectations. It was number one this week. Now, let me give you some context. Even though it shattered expectations, it came in with $51 million domestically. To give you some context, Sinners, in its first week, came in with $60 million. Here's some more context. Sinners was number 3 this week, just barely. It brought in another $15 million. But here's the strange part, or ironic part. Sinners this week, in its 5th week in theaters, was in 3,518 theaters in its 5th week. It has not lost any theaters in its first 5 weeks. In fact, it has gained theaters for 5 successive weeks to now be in its widest release of 3,518 theaters. Final Destination, in its first week, debuted with 3,523 theaters. Meaning, if Sinners had the degree of theater coverage that Final Destination had in its first week, Sinners probably would be doing even better now. It's taken 5 weeks just to get up to 3,500 theaters. And Final Destination, another R movie, 3,523 theaters. So a lot of times, it's about the perception of a movie even before it hits the theaters as to how well it could do. Because there wasn't that groundswell of belief in the movie Sinners just by itself. And you had those half-assed stories being told by Variety saying it was the number one movie, it got $60 million, but it's not profitable yet. Remember that? They're not saying that about Final Destination, which had an inferior first week.
There was a definite slant to the coverage of Sinners. There's no mistaking that.
That's why I wanted to slow down and explain that even though Sinners has grown in number of theaters for 5 consecutive weeks, and it is a movie phenomenon, it still is not in as many theaters as Final Destination.
And by the way, I stand by my word on Final Destination Bloodlines. It was a terrible movie, but it's just inexplicable, the Rotten Tomatoes score it's gotten. I don't know what it is today, but when I was making my notes Thursday night, it was somewhere around 93%, which is insane. It's a breathtakingly stupid movie.
Well, it has a loyal following. In other words, so whatever that movie could have been, it could have been just absolute garbage, to your point, and the Rotten Tomatoes rating probably would have been the same.
Well, go ahead, Fush.
Oh, I was just going to ask, was the 93% the critics rating?
That was the critics score.
What?
Really?
That wasn't the fans?
No, but you've got to remember that critics aren't into horror films. Like I was joking around, but it was a serious point on Friday. They would rather be watching Emilia Perez. They don't get horror films, and so, you'll go down the list of their blurbs and see, like, it was a bloody good time. And it's like, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
Wow. I didn't know that.
But it exceeded its budget. It had a $50 million budget. It made $51 million. I think the outward level of its projection was $45 million, so it kicked ass this weekend.
Final Destination Bloodlines number 1, Thunderbolts barely holding on to number 2, holding off Sinners at number 3. A Minecraft movie still hanging around at number 4. It brought in $5.9 million. It's at $929 million. I don't know if it'll make $1 billion. It has fallen off in the past few weeks, but it's been in theaters. This is the good news for movie theaters. It's been in theaters now for 7 weeks. That's what movie theaters need. They need movies to perform well and stay in theaters for a long time. Sinners has been in theaters for 5 weeks. It's going to be in for another 4 or 5 weeks at least.
I had actually read that this Bloodlines movie is already available on video on demand. Like you can get it to watch it at home.
No,
I don't have my device to look it up, but I believe it is
undercover cutting their own movie like that.
Well, I had been meaning to mention to you guys that Novocaine movie that just came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago is already on.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's disappeared. It's disappeared from movie lists. It's gone.
No, but it's already streaming on one of the services.
I think it's on
no time.
So the window, to the point that you constantly make, Mo, the window is getting so short that it's got to be something really special to get people off their asses and into a theater.
And that's why the first week is so very important, because if it's perceived as not a blockbuster hit, it's going to leave theaters even sooner. The Accountant 2, it's hanging around. It's doing decent. I can't remember what the budget was, but it's number 5 this week at $4.7 million. Its domestic haul is $59 million. It's at $94 million worldwide. That's probably better than what they expected for a movie which didn't, when it originally came out, the first one came out, no one thought it was going to be a sequel.
And this one had like no promotion.
None. It was only like people like me who really liked the first movie.
I only know because of you, yeah.
You know, we were eagerly expecting the sequel. Clown in the Cornfield came in at number 8 in its second week.
Clown.
You know, I guess it's it, and you know,
I will see that. I will definitely see that.
Okay.
It's grossed $6.6 million worldwide in its second week so far, and The Amateur is still hanging around. It's in the top 10. It's brought in like a million this week, and it's brought in $94 million worldwide. I know it had to have exceeded its budget. They didn't spend that much money on that movie, but again, Sinners, Thunderbolts doing, I would say, moderately well. I think it's still trending a little bit behind Captain America: Brave New World, but if it should have legs, it's good. It's a good news for Marvel. It's in its third week. It brought in $16.6 million domestically, and overall, it's at $326 million. Not bad, not great, but not bad.
Okay, so The Amateur had a $60 million budget, which makes it a hit.
Right, because they didn't spend anything on promotion. You know, you saw a commercial almost never.
Once again, just because of you, the only reason I even knew it was out.
Look, it was word of mouth. The word of mouth was why the first movie did well. It wasn't like it was advertised, anything. And it has a decent cast. You talk about Ben Affleck and John Bernthal. It's a decent cast. J.K. Simmons, you know, decent cast. But it's not blockbuster material. Sinners, I think, is going to be able to make $400 million. Which would do gangbusters for a lot of theaters, because if it gets to $400 million, that means it'll basically hand off the baton to the major summer blockbusters. Is it this week we have Mission Impossible?
Yep.
They're promoting it now.
It's Friday.
Okay.
Mark and I are seeing it Thursday at 12:55 a.m.
Yeah, you will not be joined by me. No. That means
12:55.
That means the movie doesn't start till like 1:30. And the movie's at least 2 hours plus.
I think
we have the stamina. We have the stamina to do this.
Clearly.
I think it's closer to 3 hours. I think it's like 2:45 and some change.
Okay, so the sun will be coming up by the time you get home.
Yeah, it'll be like 4:00 in the morning.
No, that's not enjoyable.
God. That's even too much for me.
I can't even concentrate that long. You need to give me some like methamphetamine or something to stay up.
We're going to be texting you throughout the movie. So.
Oh, it doesn't matter. My phone has a do not disturb. It doesn't matter. Go ahead, text all you want. The only people who can get through are like my mother, the boss, and I think my wife, but she probably wouldn't be texting me. No, they can't get through.
Oh, wow.
They can text your mother. No, they can't get through because they will call on some unimportant BS. Like, hey, are you going to have such and such as on as a guest? You couldn't wait until at least 8 in the morning to
Next
ask
day?
me that because they're on a different schedule as me. No, they're still in that, you know, early 20s, mid 20s, stay up all night into the morning, living on that 24-hour schedule. I'm not. I'm out until I'm up, and that's not until maybe 6 or 7 in the morning. I don't sleep a lot, but I'm not going to stay up past 1 or 2 in the morning to watch a movie. Not happening.
Well, you've got till Thursday to change your mind.
Yeah, it's not happening. No.
12:55.
Nope.
The theater's not packed.
You might as well send a coyote after me. It's not happening. Not happening. That's a callback, by the way. I deserve a rim shot. Thank you very much. I'll wait. It's later with Mo Kelly. We're going to tell you about Sesame Street coming back, but it's going to be on both Netflix and PBS. We'll tell you about it.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
I'm a kid who grew up on Sesame Street. I make no bones about it. Sesame Street was very instrumental in my growth as a child. I appreciated the lessons that it taught. I appreciated the different characters from Oscar the Grouch to Snuffleupagus, all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed Sesame Street as a kid. I didn't get the difference between public television and commercial television. It was just a show that I liked. And it's been around for more than 50 years. And for a number of reasons, there has been some uncertainty surrounding Sesame Street, its future, and also other PBS programs. Unfortunately, PBS and NPR have fallen into the politics of the day and somehow have been termed as either being anti-American or biased or agenda ridden. And it saddens me because that's where we are as a country, where we're more concerned about PBS than we are Russia. But I'll get to that some other day. Sesame Street, though, in a bit of good news, has been picked up by Netflix. It will still be on PBS, but Netflix is going to step in and also offer a streaming component. You may not know that before this Netflix deal, Sesame Street was on HBO Max, or was it? Well, it was Max back then, and they just recently changed it back to HBO Max. But if you didn't see it on HBO Max as a Warner Brothers property, don't be surprised, because I'm quite sure no one else knew it was there. I didn't even know it was there, and I cover this every single day. But it's good to know it's going to be on Netflix. And if anything, you think about the range of Netflix compared to HBO Max around the world, and I suspect that Sesame Street is going to be better off on Netflix than it ever could have been on HBO Max/Max or Warner Brothers Discovery, whatever they want to call it. And I have to say this because I'm a little bit partial to Sesame Street for a number of reasons. Friend of the show, guest on the show, Holly Robinson Peete. If you don't know, you know her obviously from 21 Jump Street, but her father was one of the original producers of Sesame Street. And we've had a few conversations over the years about the importance of Sesame Street for television and just in general. And as a kid who grew up as an African-American kid who didn't see myself much on television anywhere, to see Sesame Street and see us being featured in various roles was very instrumental. It was instructive, and it was important in the early 1970s. It was very progressive, small p. It was very advanced for television back in the day. And you looked at people differently. I should say, you just looked at everyone lived together and everyone got along. You got to see celebrities on the show, and they would talk about the different numbers that you could count. As a matter of fact, Stefan, on Talk Across the Board, I want you to find Patti LaBelle, the ABCs, when she was on Sesame Street. It is one of my favorites. And I know it's not going to make it to the podcast, but it's one of those things that I want to play, because if you are a student of music, or if you love the interaction between real people and the Sesame Street, I guess marionettes, I guess you say, what were they called? Muppets. It was just a way that you could teach kids, and they didn't know that they were even learning. This is Patti LaBelle and the Muppets. Muppets provide backup. It's so good. And then they break it down to a church service. Check it out on YouTube. It's great. Here we go. goodness for Sesame Street. It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app, YouTube, and Instagram.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI. It's later with Mo Kelly. We're still live on YouTube and want to remind you tomorrow we're going to be giving away Harry Potter and the Cursed Child tickets to the Hollywood Pantages Theater. In fact, 3 pairs. And there's going to be a video component. You're going to need to watch at least a portion of tomorrow's simulcast to get some information that will help you out possibly winning the tickets. But you're going to have to be logged on to our YouTube or Instagram simulcast at Mr. Mo Kelly. Now I'm just talking to the dog owners, or I should say the dog family members out there. Let's say you have a dog in your family. There is a new study of 1,900 U.S., they say dog owners. I don't want to say dog owners. They're family members who have dogs in their family. 1,900. And it shows that 93% think their dog's health matters as much as or more than their own health. 52% say their dog's health equals their own, and 41% actually put their dog's health first. To put it in other stark terms, 1 in 7 dog families would dump their partner for their dog. 1 in 7. And I think, would I drop my wife for Riley or Benson? And the exchange is you would get 3 more years of life out of your pets if you were to get rid of your partner. Let me think about that. 3 years more with Riley and Benson if I kick my wife to the curb. Can I get more time to consider that before I answer?
I don't see what the problem is here. This should be an easy decision.
You're saying I should kick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, don't hesitate.
All right. I mean, because a human can understand. I mean, my wife would understand if I kicked her to the curb for one or both of my dogs. And if I kicked her to the curb for both my dogs, that means I get 6 years. 6 whole years, not just 3. I don't know if I could pass up that bargain.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if I could.
No, what kind of psychopath wouldn't understand something like that?
Now, do you or did you have the same level of attachment to your cats? Does it work both ways?
It kind of does, yeah.
And for me, this is what I think about, not to be morbid, but it's something I do think about frequently. With pets, you get to see their whole life cycle. You get to see them as a puppy or a kitten, presumably. You get to see them age. Unfortunately, you will probably see the end of their lives. It's different with them. And for me, I always think of it as a child who never grows up. They still have a degree of innocence and degree of warmth that humans inevitably lose as we get older. There's not a day which I come home in which they're not excited to see me, as if they're seeing me for the first time, as if nothing else matters in the world. It's just to say hello and jump all over me and show me how much they love me. I don't know if there's anything which is on that level in the human experience. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. Yes, the complexity of human relationships is altogether different, but there's a purity in our relationships, and I can't speak with cats. I'm just saying with dogs, which is very so special that I as they say, rue the day when I have to say goodbye to them.
I'm still grieving my cats 3 years later.
I completely understand that. And I know that nothing is forever. And I think schnauzers live on average anywhere between 10 and 13 years. I get all that. But there is a warmth and understanding and unconditional love that dogs have for their human counterparts that I don't see anywhere else.
No, human beings aren't capable of that kind of love.
So I understand. I mean, all joking aside, I understand if someone says, I would kick someone to the curb to have more time with my pets. I get that. Not saying that I would. I'm saying I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand. I would have an internal discussion with myself.
I wouldn't hesitate for a nanosecond.
What about your other half? What would she do, you think?
Well, I hope she's not listening right now, actually.
No. But what do you think she would do if posed with the same?
Oh, she'd toss me under the bus instantly. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know
those were great cats.
Yeah, I know my wife would get rid of me. I know that. She doesn't even have to say that. I just know how she looks at me. Put it this way. There's how she greets me when I get home, and there's how Riley and Benson greet me when I get home. It's not the same. It's not the same. There's when I wake up in the morning and Riley and Benson jump on me and greet me, and they literally hug me. They will lay with their paws around my neck. They hug me.
No human is that excited to see you, okay?
No, my wife rolls over and looks at me. It's like, this motherfather's still here.
And in fact, you and I don't have enough money to pay another human being to feign that level of excitement.
If I could just get rid of this guy. It's not the same. It's just not the same.
No. So, but they are indoors at night then, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they're indoors at night. They usually sleep by the bed. Sometimes they'll jump up on the bed. But no, they are very warm. They are very, very, very loving. And I can't speak about other breeds, but mini schnauzers, they're the closest thing that I've seen to people-like emotions and expressions. Their facial expressions, and we talk to them in complete sentences. So when they respond to us, they're listening to the whole sentence. I'll say, Riley, Benson, go upstairs. Get back inside. Go get the toy. They respond to complete sentences.
That was impressive when you showed them.
The gate,
opening the gate,
the swinging gate.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to put that back up on my Instagram. We had taught them how to open this swinging gate from both sides, and Benson will use his paw to pull open the gate and then run through. Yeah, they're pretty amazing. Yeah, I think I'm probably giving her the boot. Yeah. She's probably listening right now. It's like, you damn right. I do the same thing.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Tonight, of course, the big news from Friday had to do with Joe Biden. And I was thinking about this all weekend. And just in case you lived under a rock or something, on Friday, former President Joe Biden was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9 with metastasis to the bone. A Gleason score is based on the appearance of cancer cells under a microscope and ranges from 6 to 10, 10 being the most aggressive form. Despite this reality, it doesn't mean the prognosis is either necessarily dire or fatal. But what we as the general public don't know is the extent of the metastasis and what other organs, if any, have been impacted. That's the medical portion of the news. The political portion, that's pretty obvious. This has already been used by Republicans to further push the narrative that the Democrats knew, at least cognitively, Biden's health was declining, saying nothing of his likely physical health naturally declining because of his advanced age. Such is the premise behind the just-released book by CNN anchor Jake Tapper and Axios political consultant Alex Thompson titled Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Me personally, I've said many times previously, privately and publicly, that Biden should have not ever pushed to run for re-election. Biden made it part of his original election stance, if you remember, that he was to be a one-term president. I always said it was fair to question whether a second-term presidency with an expiration date of January 2029 was either realistic or even idealistic. I thought it was neither. And I said it many times, and I have the audio to prove it. But Biden made his choice, and the rest, as they say, is history. But just like I said with Biden, it is fair to question Donald Trump. And here's the truth when it comes to presidents and their health, from FDR to Ronald Reagan to Joe Biden to Donald Trump. If you know your American history and you call yourself a patriot, so you should know this, you should also know what I'm about to say is true and has always been true. A president's health, or even lack of health, is a national security issue. Always has been. Ronald Reagan was failing cognitively during his second term. The American public was not and would not have ever been officially made aware while he was president. Now, you can call that a cover-up or whatever, but you will never know if the sitting president even has a peanut allergy, atrial fibrillation, gout, none of that. Much has been made of the results of Donald Trump's many physicals. And you can also call that a cover up if you want. But you, me, the general public, we will never know his true health status. Yes, we've been told that the President Trump is 6'3" and only 225 pounds. He takes statins, but that's as far as it will ever go. Don't be surprised, though. After he leaves office, you might hear something, and that's assuming he ever willingly leaves office, but that's another story. But don't be surprised if you learn after Trump leaves office that his health was far worse than originally reported. That's the way it's always been, irrespective of party. Part of it has to do with national security concerns, and part of it, yes, has to do with political concerns. Presidents have annual physicals. Joe Biden went from fully fit to metastatic cancer to the bone in 1 year. At least that's what we know publicly. But what's more likely? That he went from completely fit to aggressive metastatic cancer in the past 12 months, or that he was likely already dealing with prostate cancer on some level prior to? Now, according to the oncologists that I talked to and to Google, metastatic prostate cancer is slow and could take up to 8 years to spread to the bone. 8 years. So what is more likely? 8 years or 1? It's a fair question to ask. And we also know that some men are instructed not to get any type of PSA tests or prostate tests after the age of 70. But this is the president we're talking about. But these are fair questions to ask. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. Fair questions to ask whether Joe Biden was dealing with prostate cancer, though manageable, for longer than we, the general public, knew. But conversely, for example, if Donald Trump had a heart issue, and mind you, that's possible. He has probably the worst diet in the world. He does not exercise. It's possible he could have a heart issue. But if he did, you and I will never know while he is in office, short of dying. Not ever. And I say all this to say, you will never know how good or how bad President Trump's health is. It doesn't matter what he tells you. It doesn't matter what the White House tells you. It doesn't matter what his doctor tells you, because we're not supposed to know. Why? Because it could cause chaos in the financial markets. It could embolden our enemies. It could unravel negotiated hostage and peace deals if you knew that the U.S. president was ailing. You didn't know how close Trump was to death in his first term when he had COVID, did you? Until he left office. And then we all knew he was close to death. And that wasn't any coincidence. We didn't know how close Ronald Reagan was to death after his assassination attempt until well after he was released from the hospital. He was very close. He almost died from internal bleeding and a collapsed lung. The general public did not know that. So let me reiterate when I say this about President Biden and now restating it with now President Trump. You will never actually know how good or how bad a president's health is. The physicals and their truth are never for public consumption. But like we did with Biden, it's absolutely fair to question what we see, what we hear, and the connected behavior and call out physical or mental deterioration. You can't do it with just the president you don't like. Like typing on social media at 1:30 in the morning to bark at the moon and demand investigations on Beyonce and Bono just because they and other entertainers didn't endorse him. That's not normal, people. That's not normal for any person, much less a sitting president. And speaking of mental deterioration, it's also fair to highlight the fact that the only people with questions about their cognitive acuity have to take cognitive tests, like Trump. So know that when they say they aced the cognitive test, there is already a question. It is okay to have questioned the mental and physical health of Joe Biden. We need to understand why we're not privy to a lot of things. But if it's okay to question Joe Biden, we must also question Donald Trump. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly.
What the hell is going on? Well, we're about to tell you.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeart.